Episode 121, Full Service Photography with Brandi Morgan. Hey, I'm Daniel, and you're listening to the Visionary Variety Podcast, a weekly podcast about geek culture, entertainment, technology, and occasionally photography and videography. So in this week's episode, we're going to be hearing from my friend Brandi Morgan, who's a very successful and talented photographer and friend of mine who's influenced the way I see my products and has really helped me take my business to a new level. We're going to learn about what is full service photography, what is IPS, what's the big deal with prints, and how can you increase your value as well as your income with better photography service. All right, well, let's get to it. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Well, Brandi, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I'm looking forward to this talk.
Yes, hi.
So you've been on the podcast before. I think we had an audio clip from you at the end of one of our episodes, but now you're actually you're the guest.
Yeah, that's exciting. Thank you for having me.
Let's get started with you. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Brandi Morgan Photography, and I went full-time in business at the start of 2018.
Awesome.
I was a high school teacher for 5 years. I'm still really proud of that. I miss that. I love teenagers, and I'm a mom of 3, though. So I really wanted to dedicate time to my kids and have a more flexible schedule and do what I really love and use my creative outlet. So I went all in with photography and started IPS in 2018. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been doing is momming and running a full-time business and trying to find some time to go hiking and playing in between.
That's like every photographer mom's dream. It's just
it is.
Be a good mom, be a good photographer.
I'm totally living the dream right now.
You are. I'm very jealous of you. But I've learned a lot from you. You are actually one of the key players that helped me just kind of push me over the edge on going to the IPS business model. And for those listening, photographers or non, we are going to use the term IPS here and there. And what it stands for is in-person sales. And IPS is basically the term that refers to a business model that photographers can use to up their value by offering physical products and also by doing the sales or the presentation of the images in person, in-person sales. So it's a little bit more work, a little bit more time, but there's a much larger payoff monetarily, but also emotionally. And the big thing is that the photos are made to last, and it's just a better experience for the customer. So that's what IPS is, and you'll hear much more about that later. If you're here for that, you're in a good place because you're going to learn a lot real quickly about IPS business model and the success of it. So before we get to that, I'm going to copy what I did in the last previous interview episode, and I'm going to ask you 2 random questions. First, what did you have for breakfast today?
Oh, man. I just had coffee, and then I ran around to meet clients at a coffee shop, and when I came back, my mother-in-law bought me Subway. So,
I love Subway.
Subway lunch was brunch.
Yeah, nice. I like ranch and spicy mustard on my Subway sandwiches. What about you?
My favorite is always the chicken teriyaki sandwich, and I literally put everything on it, like every vegetable.
Awesome. It's just a salad with bread.
Yeah.
All right, next question. This is just to help us to, get to know you a little bit more. Are you more scared of garden gnomes or porcelain dolls?
Ooh, I'm not scared of either. I really like both.
Well.
Okay, no. I'm going to pick one. The dolls, because the Annabelle did get me for a minute.
Ooh, freaky. I asked the random question because we did an interview with one of my musician friends, and garden gnomes came up, and it was hilarious because he like had this thing with garden gnomes where I don't know, it was just funny.
Like if I had a garden gnome come to life, I think I would be
Ooh,
like, "Oh my gosh, you're so cute."
so
But if I
cute. Yeah.
had the doll come to life, I might be like, "Nah, you gotta go.
Burn it.
That's
Yeah.
enough."
Jesus, take the wheel. I'm out.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. So, for our listeners, where can they find your work online?
You can find me at brandymorganphotography.com and Facebook, Brandi Morgan Photography, LLC, Instagram at Brandi_Morgan_photography.
Awesome. Cool. Cool. And your work is awesome. I love your style. I love your consistency, your locations. It's all just top notch.
Thank you. It's like 9 years in the making.
I hear you. Yeah, it's my style. I got my own style, my own strengths, and it's taken, 10-ish years to get here. Sadly, if I had people to mentor me, I would have gotten here in like 2 or 3 years, maybe. But I kind of did
Yes.
things on my own.
Where was Jim when we just picked
I
our camera
know.
up, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know about Facebook groups. I didn't know about like all these YouTube channels. Well, they probably weren't around when I started, but there are so many resources to learn photography. It's ridiculous these days.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think back to like the snarky photographers I ran into in the beginning that were like behind my shoulder going, "Oh my gosh, that lighting is terrible." And I
Ah,
was like, "Well, tell me
wow.
how. I don't
Thanks a lot.
know." And it was years later that I was like, "Oh, I was doing it wrong." But no one
But
showed
they didn't
me,
help
no one
you.
told me. Yeah, it was hard.
Yes. Yeah, I have a huge passion for helping, training, and just educating, photographers, especially newer ones. I help, I don't know what the advanced ones, if you want to call them that, but I love newbies too because I was them, but I didn't have me back when I started.
No, me too. I actually want to tell you that I had a girl add me online the other day and said, "Oh my gosh, your work is inspiring." And I checked
Uh,
her out, and this is going to give my age away. So when
uh-oh.
I first started substitute teaching in Bandera,
Uh-huh.
she was probably in fourth grade. I probably was like her
Oh,
substitute teacher. And
oh my
now she's
gosh.
like this 19-year-old girl who's like trying to get out there, and her work looks
Wow.
great. She's already got some talent and she's going to kill it. And I'm like, if she gets to know what I know
Oh
at the
man.
age of 22,
Look at
like
world.
she's going to be doing circles around me.
Yeah, totally.
But
Yep.
but rather than cut her off and, send her to the wolves, I told her she needs to get on IPS masterminds like yesterday
Yeah.
and told her some resources, and I'm kind of excited to see if she does laps around me in a couple years.
That's awesome. I love stories
Yeah.
like that. So let's get into you and your business model. I'll have a few things to add here and there because we do some things pretty similar. But I want to focus on you because you've been way more successful than me, and definitely an inspiration to me.
Well, thank you.
So, how would you describe your photography services to like a potential customer? Someone first time talking to them, they say, "Tell me about you," or you want to tell them about yourself. How do you describe your photography service?
I think a lot like you do. I say I'm full service.
Hmm.
And I'm very candid and I'm very heartfelt and I'm very honest. My goal is that you have tangible items,
Yeah.
not just digital items. I want to offer a full service to you. You can take as much of the services that I offer or as little of the services that I offer. And what I mean by that is some people want to sit and plan to the T, the wardrobe, the makeup, the hair, the location specifications. Some people really love the planning, and I do. And the more we plan, the better things turn out.
Yep.
And I have such a vision from that. But if somebody's like not a planner and doesn't want to go through that process, it's not going to make or break it. It's just not going to be as amazing as if we take that time and put in that energy in the forefront.
Yeah.
On top of that, I can go all the way to hanging the images on the wall of your house. Now, if
Right.
somebody really just wants me to hand them to them through the door while they're cooking dinner, I mean, I'm going to pout a little on my way back to the car, but If that's what they want, then I'm going to go as far as they'll let me, to make
Yes.
it as much as I
Full
can for them,
service.
as much as they'll take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I love hearing the surprise on their voice or seeing their face when I tell them I will come into your house if you'll let me, and I'll hang the photos myself on your wall for you. No other
Yes.
photographers. Okay, I can't say none because you and I do it, and others do it
I
too.
know, right?
But
Like I'm the one that says that
almost,
too. None except for Daniel.
yeah, almost no photographers will do that, think of that, or even want to do that, and that's
Yeah,
why full service is better than than not. I don't know how to say it politely.
exactly.
In your opinion, what combination of skills and I guess personality traits are needed to be a successful photographer?
Well, one thing that I do notice when I think about how I'm thriving in the business is that I am a wild card. I just I just go for it when I have an idea, and tonight I had a girl who's in this gorgeous gold sequenced gown,
Oh.
and she's getting these very elegant shots for her senior photos. And my next thought was, I need you to lay down in the river.
Just trust me.
And I mean, I could hold back and I could, maybe she doesn't want to be cold and soggy, and I don't know. Those thoughts creep in, but then I'm like, nope, I need you to lay down in the river right now. And unless someone protests, then she's laying down in the river. And some of the shots that I was able to capture were just like amazing. And she was so scared about getting her hair wet as she made it down into the water. She was like, I can lay down in the water. Oh, wait, but I have to get my hair wet.
Oh
And
no.
it's things like that where it's like, just do it. Just go with the moment. Let's just make magic happen. This is art. We just can't overthink this. Lay down in the water. And I just love it. But even on that note, a couple weeks ago, I had a gorgeous maternity, a gorgeous mom. And I was like, man, she's like kind of got this allure about her that she could be a little bit sexy. And what woman doesn't want to feel like a little bit sexy when they're 37 weeks pregnant? I need
Right.
to make her feel like a superwoman right now. So I brought a different dress. I changed her into it in my tent in the middle of the park. She wasn't sure about it. She's like, I don't have the right undergarments. I don't know. When she put it on and I stuck her in this little patch of tall grass in the sunset, magic happened. And then I said, "And what do you do for a living?" And she's like, "I'm a physician."
Oh
And
wow.
I thought, oh gosh, I'm glad she didn't tell, but sometimes I would think maybe that would have held me back if she told me that in advance. But I didn't ask those questions early. She had this gorgeous aesthetic and I
Hmm.
went with it. So here I'm taking Dr. Such and Such into a field, making her sexy pregnant mama. And I don't feel bad about it. And I'm
Awesome.
sure that like she loved that. Nobody
Oh
wants to
yeah.
be treated like Dr. So and so and they're trying to
Uh-huh.
get a beautiful capture. So I think just that I'm off the cuff and a little crazy and we have so much fun.
You sound like an artist or something.
Yeah, yeah. So then, that's just how it happens. And when
Yeah.
that happens, it's amazing. And I
Hmm.
come home going, what did I do? And then I'm like, no, it was perfect.
You were in the zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, you gotta have that. I don't know what it is, that creative spark to try new things, or you'll just stick in the same equation and you'll get burned out and bored. I now I'll take a different approach to this question and say that, in my opinion, some combination of skills that it takes to be a successful photographer is you have to be an artist, yes, but you also have to be a business person, which is where a lot of
Yes,
photographers
definitely.
fail. I mean, man, so many photographers fizzle out or just don't make anything that they're worth. They're wasting their time making about $5 an hour on average in the end, and because they're not a business person and they don't understand all the various things that has to do with finances and costs and things like that. So
Well, and on that note, I will say that one of the things I've really, really learned in the 2 years IPS, I've been an artist all my life. I've
Hmm.
had, the fire in me forever. But
Right.
if there's anything I've learned in 2 years full time with this, 2.5 now, is that you have to be a business person, but you
Hmm.
have to be a business person in front of your clients without seeming like a business person. And I think that is the biggest challenge that in some ways I'm overcoming. And then in some ways I still have hurdles with different personalities and different types of people.
So let's bring it back to the term we mentioned earlier with full service photography. Do you use that term regularly, and what does that mean? I mean, we kind of answered it earlier. Maybe we can take it from a different approach. But what does full service mean to you?
Full service means to me that I'm never going to be the photographer that photographs you and hands you a handful of digitals. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so full service to one person may mean that, but that's not going to come from me. Full service can be interpretive, but to me, it means like helping every single step of the way. And in
Uh-huh.
my process, I describe 4 meetings: the pre planning session, the photo shoot itself, the reveal session, and then the delivery of the products. So
Right.
no one
Yeah.
goes without seeing me write it around 4 times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very personal. I mean, it's a personalized service that includes art and includes capturing through photography. I think it's very unique, and it's refreshing to see like what the service does compared to the old way, our old way of doing things, which some people call shoot and burn. I don't like that term because I never burned. Well, I did burn CDs for a while. What is that customer really going to get out of that in the long term? Like if we fast forward time, I'm going to bring up my nerdiness here. If I were to time travel into 20 years into their future, would they still have those digital files? Very likely no.
Yeah.
Very,
Well,
very
because what I
likely.
have found and what I express to my clients over and over, and I've probably repeated this 100 times in the last couple years, is that doctor who turned out just stunning in her maternity session. She's going to get busy. She's going to go to
Yeah.
work, and then she's going to have a baby, and then she's not going to get around to printing those photos,
Oh,
more or
yeah.
less printing them in a really beautiful and elegant way to display what we accomplished in the session without some help. And so that is what my biggest fear is, and that's what I avoid.
The guy who trained you and I in some respect, Jim Landers, he's a local educator and photography trainer. He has a number of metaphors that kind of describe this. He says, "Would someone come to fix your roof, give you the tiles, give you the tools and the I don't know what all the hammer and nails and things like that, and just and say, there you go, I'll take my payment and I'll leave. You can do the rest." That's not
No, I thought of
good
that
service.
analogy today. My refrigerator broke. The guy came, he diagnosed my refrigerator, the
Uh-huh.
compressor went out, and he says, "You need a new compressor." And how amazing was it that he came back the next day, today,
Ah.
with the new compressor and installed it onto my refrigerator so that I don't have to get behind my fridge and figure out where
Yeah.
the part goes.
So you might say he's a full service refrigerator technician, which makes you think, why would anyone do that without being full service? And to that I say, why would you do photography without being full service?
Exactly,
uh,
exactly.
mhm. Yeah. Earlier, what I was saying about the digitals, it's kind of scary the fact that we are trusting in devices so heavily that we feel that digital files are forever, and they're totally not. Um, you can find all kinds of stats. Even from the Library of Congress, they have like a department that measures digital storage because the Library of Congress, one of their main things is like preserving historical documents and things like that. So they've had a board of scientists do a whole bunch of very extensive studies on hard drives, different storage media, and how long they last before they fail on average. And your typical hard drive will fail, I think they said 3 to 5 years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's like an external hard drive. Realistically, most of our customers don't even know about those. They rely on their
Yeah.
laptop hard drive. And laptops, same story. Actually, even quicker turnaround time for those. People get a new laptop about every 3 to 4 years. And
Yeah,
then
I do.
phones, even quicker. It's like, bye bye data. And now you're probably thinking, oh, what about cloud storage? Well, unless it's a ginormous name like Apple or Google, you're not going to have access to that in 5 to 10 years. You're just
Yeah.
not. You're going to forget passwords. The company's going to get bought out. Things are going to change. You're just going to forget about the fact that he wasn't even in the cloud because you never even looked at it in the cloud. It just doesn't have the staying power. That's a term that I don't think I made it up, but I feel like I did because digital files don't have staying power. They have very low enjoyment factor, and they can't compete to a print on your wall that could stay up for 5 to 10 years. And you see it every day. It's a piece of art, way better than a screen that you need to have electricity for, an internet, and a login.
Oh,
Just
yeah. Yeah. No,
can't compare.
I just love my prints. I love my
Hmm.
products. I love my photos on the wall. I love it all so much. And I enjoy it every day in between everything else I'm doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about your story with IPS. What made you switch, and what was that like for you?
Well, I left teaching full time high school and I had a salary. I had a full paying job and I never had to worry about an income on in my own pocket.
Mm.
And I knew that if I left that and I was going to go full time with my photography, I did not want to just up and up my prices to offer the exact same thing I always had. All inclusive to me was raise your prices, but what are you doing different?
Hmm.
And I just couldn't bring myself to understand how I would feel comfortable with that. And that was a personal choice for me that I don't feel comfortable to price something higher when it's the same thing it's been. And
Yeah, doesn't make
so
sense.
so what I thought to myself was, okay, well, if that's not going to sit well with me, then what can I do better to make myself of more value to increase what I offer and what the
Hmm.
value of my services is?
Yeah.
And what that brought me to was, um, I can't even tell you the date or the time or where, but some IPS conversation with and I started to learn and research IPS and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a way that I can feel better about offering so much more to my clients. I feel more
Hmm.
valuable. I view it as something that people are going to be more excited to invest in."
Yeah.
And all of that really just came together for me as this is where I need to go and this is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to be happy with.
Awesome. Yeah, it kind of gives you back the worth. Photographers struggle with that self-worth thing. They struggle with charging how much they want to charge, and then once they settle on that, they may not realize yet that that's not even a sustainable income, what they're already charging, and they struggle to do that. Um,
Absolutely, because what I was charging before was when by the time, and I share this all the time, by the time I did my taxes, I was negative $5,000 one
oh
year
no, not good.
just for what I had spent on props and permits and camera gear and everything else. I was I had to look back on an entire year and realize that I actually pocketed nothing.
Yeah.
I actually spent my family's money to have my part-time business.
That's a hole of money.
Yeah,
Bye
so
bye
that
money.
was a sad epiphany for me. And that was really what brought me to the other side of like, I need to figure out the business side of this so
Yeah.
that I can actually not just earn money, but earn a living from it. And
Hmm.
that means you need to make big changes, not just little
Yeah.
changes.
What are some resources that have really helped you learn that maybe you can share with our listeners if they want to do the same thing that you've done?
Oh, yeah. So some that come to mind are definitely IPS masterminds. I mean, you could just scroll that Facebook group
Oh yeah, learned so
for
much.
a year and just it's such a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Secondly, what is definitely Landers Photography School if you're local in San Antonio. I took a lot
Hmm.
of information from Jim in the classes I've taken there. And then further than that, I reached out to a guy who I find very inspiring and who is super business savvy. He is not an IPS photographer, he's a wedding photographer, but
Hmm.
he is brilliant with SEO and how to improve your website and how to improve your aesthetic online and how to market better. And I signed up with Kyle and I really feel like I've gained a lot from him. And there's a lot I still need to learn that from him and from his course that I just really need to find the time to sit down and go through more because in such a little bit of his course, you learn so much
Yeah.
and you take in so much that it's like I took off with just the first chapter. So it's like I haven't even gotten to chapter 3 and it already helped me go 4 miles.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited this summer when things slow down a little for me to
Hmm.
dig into Kyle Goldie's
Yeah.
courses a little bit more and see, gosh, what else is there left for me to take from it?
Right.
Because I feel like I
What else could
gained
there
so
be?
much. His name is Kyle Goldie, and he's a photographer, but he's an educator as well. And that, yeah, that helped me a lot. That helped me go to number 1 on certain Google searches.
Yeah, SEO is definitely something that most photographers don't know about or invest any time or money into. But if your um, audience is coming from Google searches, you need to invest in that because that's important. I don't know what
Well,
I'm doing.
I had more clients find me on my website and on Instagram after working with Kyle. Then I was like, where did you find me? Instagram. Where did you find me? Your website. And I
Awesome.
was like, wow, it's really helping.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's talk about the photo shoot portion of your service because that's just like one of the 4 parts that you do.
Yeah.
And that used to be all we did, right? It was just a photo shoot, and then we
Yes.
edit it, and we're done. But now it's just one of the legs on the table. So at the photo shoot itself, what are some things you'd use to get poses or not poses? I mean, your photos look very natural. They're always so happy, and they're just nicely placed in the photo. I just love how you position your people. I don't know if it's even posing, but what are some tips you can give for that?
Oh, for sure. So I found this really cool group called Promptography,
Yeah.
and you can research promptography, and it is just so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It makes things more candid. And so, uh, just for a fun one, I like to, if I have a whole family and they're standing there and they just got to the shoot and they're feeling kind of nervous, and I just want them to just get in the mood and just
Yeah.
relax and laugh and have fun together. I'll immediately just start with, okay, we're going to look at the person who feels guilty. And they're like, what? And sometimes they want to point, and sometimes they want to do something outside their instructions. But I say, you just look at the person who's guilty. And then I say, who took the longest to get ready today? And
Yeah.
everyone looks at mom.
And then they'll laugh, and
and
then you
then
start
and
snapping
then they
away.
laugh because they're like, oh man. And let me share with you this. I had the funniest experience recently where my husband and his cousin took photographs for me for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And my husband and his cousin have been at my sessions and they've seen me use these fun prompts. So
Uh-oh.
they dove in, and his cousin was like, I'm going to be Brandi. I'm channeling my Brandi Morgan right now. And she asked me and my 2 boys one of the questions and said, so who's the loudest out of all of y'all?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it
gee, I
was
wonder.
it's so revealing because none of us moved. My sons and I both sat still and looked straight ahead because all three of us felt guilty. And no one looked at anyone because we all thought we were going to be the one who was looked at. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, we are the loudest house in the world.
Sorry, neighbors.
Yeah, but it was just so fun and so funny. And then the photos she got were some of my favorite ones ever because she did what I
Awesome.
do. And she was
Yeah.
like,
It
man,
works.
that was hard. And I was like, yeah, but you did so well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you now that I think about it, I think you also got me into promptography and doing prompts at shoots. I do a little bit of half and half. Like I'll do half
Yeah,
a
me
posed
too.
shoot, and then I'll do some prompts, and I'll give them some of them as just not like an instruction. Like I want you to walk in a big circle. I'm not here. You can talk or do whatever you want. And I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
maybe have them do it twice. Do it backwards, you know. But yeah, prompts are a real game changer for getting natural photos of people being their happy selves.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I definitely see a difference that if I throw a prompt in every, pose prompt, when
yeah,
we do
mix
the
it up.
prompts, it really just, that's what stands out in the client's mind after the session. They
Oh yeah,
think
they
of all
remember.
the funny things and all the things we said and all the things I asked. And
Hmm.
that's the memory that they take away and they're going to look back on those
Yes.
photos with. And that's special too.
And they'll say two things almost always. They'll say, one, that was the funnest photo shoot I've ever had. And then
Yes.
two, no other photographer's ever done that. That was great.
Yes.
And then
And I
boom, you got
definitely
them.
get that a lot where
Yeah.
I've had clients come and say, well, we've worked with so and so and so and so, and they were great, but you made it
But
fun. And I'm like,
yeah.
yes.
Yes. Especially for the
Yeah.
dad. When the dad has fun, you know you did a good job.
Oh, yeah. I loved that a couple weeks ago that, it's pretty typical, super common, but the dad was just like, the wife saying he's shy and he's like, I'm just not
Uh,
into photo shoots and, this isn't my thing. And by the time he was getting in the car, he's laughing. We couldn't, but he
awesome.
wanted to give me a big hug. I could sense it. And it was just
That's
awesome. And I
funny.
was like, okay, air hug. I love you guys. We were best friends by, an hour. It was
That's
great.
great. Yeah. Now, how do you do the planning stage concerning location and clothes? How does that work?
So, what I strive to do with every client is we meet up at the coffee shop. And lately we've been going to the coffee shops that have big outdoor tables and we sit across the table and I just ask a
Nice.
lot of questions. And I can sit on one end of the table and, the senior says, I really like river shots. And I'm
Uh-huh.
literally, as we sit there and she's 3 feet from me, tagging her to my river shots on Instagram or texting her a gallery.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be side by side and face to face, but I'm helping her until she goes, oh, I love that one. And I'm like, you know what? Now that I've sat with you and I've gotten to know you for 30 minutes, we had a coffee, we laughed, we talked about something else.
Uh-huh.
Now I know that that spot's going to be great for you. And I
Yeah.
think there's some intuition and some instincts there, but I think it's just getting to know the client and just getting a sense of what they love and what's going to appeal to them for their shoot.
That's great. Yeah, getting to know your client is so important. I posted on a wedding group and I said, getting to know my bride and groom is like so key for me to make good photos of them and
Yeah.
have a connection. Well, it's the connection that makes the photos better because they're more comfortable with you, they understand you, and they like you. You're not just like this guy behind a camera that you're there paying a bunch of money to. Like you're a nice guy and you're having fun with them.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I actually got some backlash. I got some people saying, I'm not a psychologist. I don't need to know them. I just take great photos and they pay me what I cost. I'm just like,
Oh,
come
it's just
on.
not
Like,
the same to me anymore. If I photograph a client that I haven't met before,
yeah,
that is a gamble.
that's
So
risky.
I had a really, really cool experience this week where I had a mom message me at 11 at night and said, I know you're busy, Brandi. I know you couldn't fit us in. The other photographer ghosted us. We have 3 days
Oh.
to have a senior photo of her for virtual graduation.
Ooh.
And she had contacted me 2 weeks before. I said, I'm so slammed. I just can't right now. I'm so sorry. I don't have an opening this week. I really didn't. I didn't have one free evening.
Wow.
And so I thought she'd go find somebody else. When she came back at 11 at night, 3 days before, I was like, I have to shoot this girl in the morning. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to drag my butt over there. I've got to get this girl some pretty photos. And her mom's persistent. And why wouldn't she be? She's looked at my photos. I feel flattered. So I met up with them, only having spoken to them online.
Hmm.
And the girl was just so sweet and personable and wonderful and gorgeous. And it was like an hour and a half of beauty. And
Yeah,
I didn't want to leave. I was like, this is a magical morning. This was
that's awesome.
amazing. And that's the kind of gamble where I won. I feel like I won the lottery that morning, but sometimes it's not going to be like that. Sometimes it's like,
No.
oh gosh, I don't know how to approach this session or how to pose, what shots we want to capture because I don't know these people and we just met and I can make the most of it, but it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, I had a similar story of connection with a senior too. It was I think
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, and I'm talking to the guy over the phone to get to know him. Just asking him random stuff like, what do you do for fun? What are you most proud of in high school? What do you want to be when you grow up? Some like cliche stuff, but some more kind of off the wall things. And
Yeah.
he's a football guy. He got a full scholarship to like three different colleges. Big, like broad shoulders, 6 foot guy. He could totally take me out, no problem. And all about football. But I asked him, "What do you do for fun?" And he was kind of hesitant, but he told me, "I like to color." I was like, "Okay, tell me about that. What do you mean? What do you color? What do you like to do?" So he does art and he does like those they're what they're called adult coloring books and other things
Yeah.
too. So he loves color. He loves abstract art. So I'm thinking, I would not have expected this from a huge 6 foot football player
Oh yeah,
with three
that's my
scholarships.
brother-in-law. He's the big football guy that can paint and you're like, "What?"
Ah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So now that I knew that, I was like, all right, let's work with this. So I found the second location for his shoot. I found this amazing place in San Antonio called Essex Modern City. And boy,
Oh, I
is it
saw those
cool.
that you shared. I did see
Yes.
that.
There's like an old building that is torn down and there's just walls remaining, open walls, and they invite artists. I guess it used to be every month or every week, come and paint new murals of all kinds of styles and subjects all over the walls. So you
That's
can just
so
walk around
awesome.
this property and look at like literally about 100 pieces of art, and they're all back side by side. And it's super cool, very hip and modern and urban and artistic and colorful. And I'm like, this is perfect for you. And he loved it. And they were blown away. I found this location just for them. And I would never have known that if I just went off of the football thing.
Yeah,
We
yeah, for sure.
after that we went to the football stadium and did some amazing photos there. But yeah, it was great. That connection is super super key to quality photography, and that's just one of the parts of a full service photographer is going that extra mile to make their photos better but different than everyone else's and make it more
Yeah,
them. I tell people, I
yeah,
want
for
your
sure.
photos to be you. Yeah, I have my style, I have my stuff going on, but these photos are going to be you. They're going to look like you. They're going to be you, and personality is going to be in them.
Yeah,
And
definitely. I had an interesting situation where I offered a gift session to a senior boy on one of the local pages. I just was feeling generous. I want to gift one senior that's been in quarantine and I just want to give back one session.
yeah.
And that's what I could manage, so that's what I threw out there. Well, I ended up having two boys and I had to squeeze them into one evening. And they were both
Ooh.
very different guys on very different spectrums of interests and sports and things like that. Well, it was really cool and a really neat challenge for me to take two totally different guys, two totally different looks, different clothes
Uh-huh.
in the same spots and
Wow.
alternate them, but make it uniquely them. And so I had one where he's like looking kind of country, and I have the other one who's like doing handstands. And it was just, one is just kind of an off the wall kid, and one is just like really laid back. And getting both of those in the same hour, in the same session, because it was a gift, it was just really cool. I was like, this is feels like a challenge and something fun and creative. It was challenging me creatively to think of, how do I take two totally different dudes in the same spot in the same location and make them uniquely theirs. And that
Yeah.
was cool.
Wow, that's really cool. I love it. And that's where the photography skills comes in, is getting angles and capturing, someone uniquely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's close this out by discussing if one or two or extra things. I wanted to ask you about prints versus digitals. So why are prints better than digitals? If they are, what are some of the benefits to them? And maybe also, where sometimes, what are some situations where digitals are better or necessary?
Okay, so I think prints can be such conversation starters.
Oh yeah,
So I like love the ones that are hanging in my living room. The gallery that I have, just it warms my heart all the time, because one of our favorite places that we've ever been as a family and that we've gone a couple of times is Big Bend National Park. And one of the photo shoots that I took advantage of printing several canvases of was last year when Big Bend had the huge bluebonnet blooms. And we
yeah.
went as a family, hopped in the car. We had a 3-day window before a wedding I had to photograph. And we hauled butt to Fort Stockton, hauled butt, got a flat, got a blowout in literally the middle of nowhere, went out, made it into the national park. We were all tired. We'd been dressed up for hours, changed a flat, all this craziness, and then captured these photos in the 5 foot tall bluebonnets.
Oh wow.
And I think that just tells our family story, like in a nutshell. We are so spontaneous. We always have like a bump in the road, but we always persevere through the craziness, and we just make the most of the moments, and we love each other. And that day and that 3 days that we went out there and did all that is
Yeah.
such the story of who we are and how our family is. And just to have the blue bonnets, the Texas, the Big Bend, the traveling, the crazy day we had getting there, all of it is us. And so having that on the wall is different than if it was on Facebook somewhere. I wouldn't remember it every day while I sit and drink my coffee and,
Totally.
wake up in the morning. And so I love just looking at my wall full of all those photos and seeing how my boys have changed and their hair is changing. You don't realize that unless you're looking at it hanging in your home.
Yes. Yeah, a photo is like a form of time travel for your
Yeah.
memory. Memory is a terrible, unreliable thing. The criminal
Yeah.
justice system has discovered that in past decades, that memory is not a great source of information or recalling details. It changes, it can be altered and influenced by various things. Mostly is just time. I read that when you're recalling a memory, you're actually remembering the last time you remembered it, which is when you did that, you're remembering it the previous time you remembered it before that. So it's like playing telephone with your brain, and memory is
Wow.
just not great. And with kids, they change so fast. It's kind of a shame because you can really easily forget what your kid looked like as a toddler or as a
Yeah.
preteen or a teen. It's just
Oh,
like,
I
ooh,
do. I really do.
the other form of time travel is having kids.
Yeah.
Because, man, time flies. I got four under the age of 7, and they're changing like before my eyes. So, photos are important. They really do serve a purpose, and they should be in the real world. They should not be in the digital realm strictly.
Well, and I will say on that note too that my mother-in-law was visiting with me today, and we were bringing up my daughter's birthday party.
Yeah.
And I had to ask her, were you there? Did you, I mean, surely you were at the birthday party. Well, of course I was. Well, I realized that she dodged some of the photos. And so we don't have a photo of her there. And
Oh,
so it had caused me, since we don't have a photo of her being at the party, it caused me to forget that she was at the party
wow, that's
because we had
crazy.
so many pictures of friends and family that were there. And I remember so much of that day because of how many beautiful photos we got of all my daughter's friends, 8 little toddler girls playing in the backyard.
Cute.
But it broke my heart that I mean, I kind of forgot that my mother-in-law came. Why wouldn't she have? She comes to all the
Hmm.
kids' birthdays, but I kind of forgot she was there because I have all these photos that I've been treasuring for 7 months now, and she wasn't in them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
crazy. I think it's awesome to have photos that you can hold in your hands. You know, the albums are, well, I can't say albums are better than a print on the wall, but they do a lot of things better than a single print. If you have an album, you can have, 20 to 60 photos right there in front of you on your lap.
yes.
And you can go through it up close. You have it closer to your eyes than a wall print is. And it's just a more personal experience. And I mean, how awesome is it to like bring out your album from 2 years ago and just look through it with your kids, or your kids look through an
Oh,
album and see
yeah.
your wedding. Like that's better than them scrolling through another screen and just looking at it on a 2 by 3 inch screen, which is smaller than a 4 by 6. And
Yeah,
it's blue.
definitely.
It's not color accurate. It's shiny. There's other things popping up and on the background. It's just, it's not the same.
No.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a digital junkie. Like most of my life is in the digital realm. Obviously, the photography is done on the computer. I do digital graphics. I do videography. I'm into a lot of other things that are only on computer systems. But you got to bring the milestones and the big moments out, because a Facebook post is only going to get enjoyed for about 2 days, maybe 2 weeks, and after that, you'll see it on your yearly, what is it, Facebook memories if you look at it. But after that, it just disappears, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
I think that our clients' major memories and milestones deserve much better than that. And I had a great call with you a while back where you basically said something to the effect of giving them digitals alone is doing them a disservice.
Yes, I do say that a lot.
Totally agree. Now, there are some cases where digitals are the product, like a headshot for something else that's digital, product photos that a company needs for their website, promotional material for businesses or things like that. They need digital files because it's not going to be on their wall. That's not going to serve them. They
Oh,
need it to
yeah.
be online. That's different.
But those are also not my regular clients.
Right.
So those are like exceptions to my regular work.
Yeah, you focus on families and you do weddings, right? Still?
Yeah, I do intimate weddings, families, and portraits.
Yeah. So those are all like perfect for IPS, perfect for prints and albums.
Yeah.
I do some additional categories of photography that are a little harder to sell on prints and albums, such as cosplay and some other professional like organization photos of businesses and things like that. That's a little different. It's been a big learning process for me. I started also in the fall of 2018, and thanks to you and Jim and Chad Cooley also has been a big help for me on Facebook. And I'm not saying that I've got it all figured out. I didn't even do a whole lot of IPS last year, but I made almost as much as I did in my full-time job. So that's something.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
If I had poured a little bit more money into marketing and done some more SEO stuff, I could have made twice what I made for my day job. And I'm hoping this year and next year is going to definitely be like that once the world gets back to normal.
Well, post quarantine is treating me well.
Yeah,
There
it's
is
not affecting you.
money to be made, and there are families that want photos right now. So
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the ride of May.
Well, Brandi, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and sharing some literally life-changing information. It definitely could be that for some photographers, don't you think?
I really hope so. If I can do anything to help somebody get a few steps ahead,
Yeah.
I strive to, I try to, I want to, because I know that like we talked about earlier, just if I would have had some of the knowledge I have now sooner, I
Hmm.
could have been where I am now sooner. And who doesn't
Yeah.
want that?
I totally agree. It's mostly been photographers like you and other friends that have said something at first I probably didn't even agree with, but then the more they explained it with no agenda, I started to understand, you know what? You're right, and I've been an idiot all along. It's those people, it's
We
those
all
people
have
that
that though. We
yeah.
all do.
It's those people that have jump started me like leaps and bounds ahead of where I would have ever been on my own. And I wouldn't have got there without having a community and asking and having people to talk to me. So,
And the
uh,
last thing I will add to that too is
yeah.
that change feels uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Change is hard. I can admit that. I'm still struggling with if I changes that I could or should or would make in the future for the business
Yep.
because it's good. Could it be better? Sure. Could I do something more? Maybe, but change is hard, and accepting and embracing it is hard.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hurdle that everybody has to overcome in order to improve.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's all awesome information. And if anyone has any information, how can they reach you? Or one more time, how can they find you online?
So brandymorganphotography.com and Instagram, Facebook. I'm out here. I'm not hard to find. And if
Nope.
anybody wants to ask questions or come take a peek at my work, you're more than welcome.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks again, and you have a great night.
Thank you so much, Daniel. You too.
If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.